That's
If
a
it's
great
because
point.
it's
Yeah,
violated, doesn't mean you're not a man.
that's right. I totally agree with that. I totally, and I'm definitely glad you said that because I think a lot of men, and I'm going to be honest, a lot of women need to hear that as well because a lot of women deal with men who feel that whatever that their manhood can be taken, and I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot, brother Charles John. Just sitting here looking at your background, and it brought a thought to me when I'm watching your background to your book and I see that tree back there. It reminded me of one day, I came home and the wind was blowing. And I walked to the back of the house and I looked up at the trees and I saw how the tree was swaying back and forth. And it brought on a thought that no matter what kind of storms come, the winds blow, we get snowy weather, we get rainy weather, regardless, that tree stands. And so and this was a while back when I saw that, but just seeing your background, it made me think about it. That there are places in my life where I have to become solid. There are places in my life that my wife should not have to come and pick me up or lift me up because now I'm solid. It's like if Brother Raymond gives me a job to do, and if Brother Raymond got to always come back there and make sure that I'm doing a right job, then Brother Raymond said, listen, if I got to continue to come back here and check on you, I might as well do it myself. At what point do you get to the place where you are solid in your stance and you're able to stand like that tree, that no matter how far that tree bends back and forth, no matter what the season is, that tree remains a tree. And I get that a lot from also Coach Vaughn that talked about nature as well. So when it comes to things like integrity, when it comes to things like character, these gifts that God gave us, the characteristics that Chapman John, what are the characteristics that you feel that all men should possess, regardless of where you are in life? These characteristics ought to be solid in you in order for you to be, as Brother Raymond said, a man in spite of what you go through.
Man, one of the cool things about having four brothers on here, somebody gonna get a single, a double, a triple, and somebody gonna get a home run. So I think Brother Raymond, I don't know, he just hit a double or a triple. So I'm gonna just try to at least bunt and get somebody in. But first and foremost, if a brother as a man does not love and trust God, he in trouble.
Right.
That's just point blank. And as much as you may not want to hear it, that is a characteristic you better have in your life. Why? Because it encompasses so many things. Because there is someone greater than you. There is someone greater than your wife or whoever you with. There is someone greater than your friends you can go to that has the answers for you in manhood. So if you love and trust God, not only that, the second part to that, from a characteristic, is when someone recognizes that you love and trust God, then you should actually have something that you're going toward, because God is, as we talked about, is going to give you a responsibility and purpose. And I want to just piggyback off of Brother Raymond when he talked about violated. I think it's interesting because I'm a product of a mother and father. I had two amazing, and James, and Lorenzo, I talk about my mother and father, especially my father, because it's a great example next to Jesus that I've ever had. And I find it interesting that when he spoke about the strong, there is another key to that I want to piggyback. So I'm a bunt right here. Is when you recognize, or when you've had that situation of violation, you lose or do not remember your value.
That's right.
And if you do not, and when you look at from violation to value, there is a gap in there that is so difficult to fill. And many men who have been violated, not necessarily, there's 5 areas you can be violated in: physical, spiritual, emotional, psychological, and mental. So when you think about those areas, that's the wholeness of you: heart, mind, body, soul, and spirit. So any one of those areas that has been violated in some way is going to lose some type of value. And a lot of times we do not know how to build our value back up. And we have been hit in so many ways. And the first hit is that we've been, in the first 5 years of our life, if you haven't had a father in your life, you've been conditioned to lose value. Why? Because there's no one in your life at that stage where you are most impacted in between. I'm gonna say it used to be one is birth in 7. Now it's birth in 5. Those are the 5 years of conditioning that you should have from a man that is in his rightful place that can help you along going further in life. If you do not have that base, whatever area, what other community situation or environment you're in is going to condition you to lose the value of who you are.
That's right.
So when we talk about something being taken, your value is going to be taken if you're not conditioned in the right area. We're looking at people who have been conditioned to fail. Why? Because they haven't had anything in place, any structure, which is another characteristic you should have, structure in your life, so that you can actually understand that it may not be the best, but even if it's not being the best, you know what opposite to do. I don't want to be like that.
Right.
And so that's a value that you got to have, because in that area of your life, you might be violated. I don't have the best example. My father's drunk. My father's this, that, and the other. But now you have the ability to uncondition yourself, if you understand what condition is, to change that. Now, there's many individuals, and I always say this, when you have been violated in an area of your life, it goes 4 levels deep, 4 generations deep. Why? Because you can best believe prior to that person was violated because that's all they knew. Yeah. So now we are in where we were great-great-grandfathers, grandfathers, fathers, and now sons. So sons are getting ready to change because great-great-grandfathers are gone. So now we're getting ready to do our children. And so if you have not learned how to remove those conditions of violation and get your value back, that's where we are right now. We look at our young men, they have no value. They don't value life.
Right.
So now they were conditioned because let's be real, because we men, majority of them been raised in a female household who has no idea what it's like in that area of expertise, which is manhood. How to actually do it. Now they could talk about it from the female standpoint. We hear that all the time, right? But man, and it is challenging to raise the level of value as a man because of what we've lost through the course of our conditioning of life. And I want to say this because you made the statement about the tree. The greatest example of the tree is the seed. See, the garden, the Lord planted the garden and placed the man. What did he do? And I always say this, the greatest 2 areas of growth that ever was created was the earth and the woman. Those are only 2 things that can bear anything. And so when you think about putting that seed of manhood in the garden, it was he said it was a responsibility in there. But here's the thing. You talked about all the conditions that happened to the tree. The same conditions happened to the seed. See, the seed was the condition. The seed, that same storm was happening when the seed was in the ground. The same situations and structures was happening when the seed was in the ground. The only way this tree could understand how to handle the storms is being a good seed.
Yeah.
And so, because the tree would have never came if the seed couldn't hang on, it couldn't do its thing in the ground.
Right.
So here it is. What kind of seeds do we have in the household? What kind of seeds do we have in the community? What kind of seeds do we have in our churches, in our environment? Man, if you didn't come up in good ground, you have to learn how to be a good seed later. But if you start as one, man, look at what you reproduce. And that's the thing when we look at the value of the seed. Man, manhood is valuable.
That's right.
It is one of the greatest seeds. It is the greatest seed that God created.
That's right.
Because it was in his image. So you can imagine if you made because he said everything that I made is good.
That's right.
So there ain't no bad man. And he might have some structures and characteristics later on in life that he bring on, but he didn't start out bad. Ain't none of us did. We started out in sin, but we didn't start out bad because the Lord said all I made was good. So when we understand the value of the good seed that we are, oh my goodness, look at what we could reproduce. Look at us, man. I'm 60. I'm a fruit of my father's good seed.
Yeah.
And I'm affecting other lives and infecting other lives because of the good seed and all the storms I've had to go through, and I'm able to stand as a tree. And so we got to get our value back.
That's right.
And
Exactly.
that
I
is a
agree with that.
characteristic, man. That is a characteristic that we should all be striving for, is trusting God, relying on him, acknowledging him, casting our cares on him, and knowing him for ourselves. Get back on track.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Brother Lorenzo, you said earlier, we talked about being the only race that really have to have this conversation